how can we be more conscious of how our attitudes affect other people? And sometimes, despite our best efforts, we don't understand how our attitudes translate into something completely different. And when it comes to this quote, isn't it fascinating about what Steve Jobs had to say about Apple? Sometimes the best person for the job is a woman, and sometimes the best person for the job is a man. Would you agree? We all agree that that's true. But I want to show you that at the time when Steve Jobs uttered those words, there's not one woman on the board. And that was a fascinating time and an interesting paradox about what he said and what was actually going on in his own company at the time. It all has to do with unconscious bias. So how can we actually say something, but in reality, it looks very different? Do you think that our perceptions, as we've discussed them, do you think that they stay with us for a very long time? So do you think this might have some bearing on how we perceive others in our workplace today? Absolutely. What do we know about a princess?
High maintenance.
High maintenance. That's one thing I hadn't thought of. Okay, high maintenance. Pirates? Probably not so much. But what else? What else? Guys, what do you think of when you think of a pirate? I want to hear from some of the guys. Come on. Was that a man that just yelled that out? Okay, very adventurous. Any of you have a pirate on your team? You don't want to say. And what do the pirates on your team like to do? They like to take you on an adventure. Sometimes they don't even necessarily know where they're going, but hey, we're going to take everybody with us. And if we get off course, doesn't matter, no big deal. We don't understand how they frame the world and the way they relate to us that may not have anything to do with us at all. He may have a particular attitude about me because I remind him of someone. He has a particular bias that I can't really control, can I? But what I can do is choose to take the lead. What I can do is choose to take charge of myself. There's one thing that we all have in common, and you tell me if I'm right about this. We all want to be valued, yes or no? We all want to be appreciated, and we all want to be understood. We all want to be valued, we all want to be appreciated, we all want to be understood. And if you look at the workplace that way, there is no divide. So how do we actually make sure that we keep that in the top of our minds regardless of our gender? What happens when we categorise and we generalise and we stereotype? What are some of the consequences of that internally? What happens? We know that there's more tension. When there's more tension, there's more potential for conflict. That's a demotivator rather than a motivator. And we also know that it has a negative impact on morale. So these are things that are so important to understand when they come into play, just how it affects everybody. And we also know that our job satisfaction decreases. So as I said before, even though it's very pervasive, even though we're not always aware of how some of these biases are playing out, let's make no mistake that it affects everyone, because it affects the energy and it can affect the atmosphere. You know, our values need to be not only about us internally to make sure that we're living them, but to remember that here we are, but there are end users out there. There are the people that support us, that keep us working, that buy our products. You know, we have 830 stores, 25,000 people working for this company. We want to just stay connected to that emotion behind what brings people into our stores. That's why we do what we do. And for all of us to remind ourselves too, that really, it sounds like a crazy thing to say, but do we remember that connection of who our primary customer is? Women. So what we do in business, our business practices need to also reflect that we really understand that consumer. That's why this is so important. That's why this initiative is so important.